involved.
She, at that sentencing, received 30 years in prison for permitting abuse she knew nothing about.
In 2019, Governor Stitt pardoned Tondalao Hall, and memento was growing to change the law that put her there in prison.
And now, after 2 years of freedom, News 9's Dana Herdicke checks back in with Hall and looks into what has happened to the state's law on failure to protect.
Tondalao Hall was supposed to spend 30 years behind bars for failing to protect her 2 young children from their father's abuse. The abuser received time served and never spent a day in prison. The case put the spotlight on Oklahoma's failure to protect law and attracted national attention, including this story from CBS News 60 Minutes.
What's going through your mind when they say 30 years?
It's over, you know, my life is over.
How do they look to you right now, your family?
Big and beautiful.
Turns out it was not. Governor Kevin Stitt pardoned Tondalao, or Tony, as her friends call her, and in November 2019, she walked out of prison and into the arms of her children.
Measuring up like a half inch.
Today, she's a licensed cosmetologist, a skill she learned through the RISE program in prison.
It's my passion.
Great Clips immediately gave her a job when she got out. Tony is now assistant manager and working towards her master's. She's been there for the major milestones, like 2 of her kids' graduations. She became a grandma and even has a new baby herself.
Some days I'll be driving down the street and I'll start crying at her. And I'm like, but I'm just thankful to be out, because I'm like, wow, I wasn't supposed to have been out till 2043, and I'm out, and you know, God has really blessed me.
Admittedly, however, adjusting to life on the outside has been difficult.
Like, I have to ask people to help me with doing the email.
As a felon, she found it hard to find a place to rent and connect with resources to help her.
As an ex-offender, it gets frustrating.
Still, she has no bitterness for the system, only resolve to change it.
The time behind that law is just too much. Too much.
On that 60 Minutes story, Governor Stitt agreed.
With the enabling child abuse laws, you can serve up to a life sentence. That's how broad that is right now, the sentencing. Does that sound right to you?
It doesn't. It sounds too long, and that's some of the things that we want to address in our state.
But in the 2 years since Tony has been out of prison, nothing has changed in the law.
Absolutely not. And we've seen no indication that the way the law is used has changed at all.
On the same day we interviewed Tony, Rebecca Hogue was being sentenced in Cleveland County after her former boyfriend killed her son.
Rebecca, do you think you should be in jail?
Prosecutors were asking for a life sentence.
I feel like that I am her and she is me.
In 2019, when Tony's case was in the headlines, a bipartisan bill in the legislature would have added provisions for victims of domestic violence and reduced maximum sentences. But supporters say it lost momentum when the District Attorneys Association opposed it.
We support a law that protects children, is the bottom line.
Matt Ballard is the current president of the District Attorneys Association. He's also the Rogers County District Attorney and points to a case in his own county where 2 grandparents were charged with failure to protect after their 2 9-month-old granddaughters that they watched all the time were found starving to death. He says cases like this, or worse, demonstrate a need for maximum sentences.
Because there's so many ways that the crime can happen, you need the full range of punishment.
But like Tony, in Oklahoma, approximately 1 in 4 women received longer sentences than their abuser. Do you think it unfairly targets women?
Of course, yeah.
Lambert says 93% of failure to protect convictions are women. In the other 7%, men were charged as well. Has there ever been a case where the man was convicted of failure to protect and not the woman?
Not in Oklahoma.
Ballard counters men are simply more likely to be the abusers.
But ultimately, from a DA's perspective, we're going to hold the people accountable that let this child down.
He adds, ultimately, it's up to a judge and jury. In Rebecca Hogue's case, the judge reduced her sentence to 16 months. But while in prison, Tony says she knew many women sentenced under the failure to protect law, many who were still there. She keeps in touch with some of them, fully understanding the blessings of her circumstances, as she tries every day to be an example of what she says they all could be.
It's all God, not me. I'm just walking.